Released in 2022, Andor asks a few questions. How do we fight back against fascism? What will we sacrifice in that fight? And what would happen if someone cool and actually good at writing made a Star Wars piece of media? This is The Screen, and this is a review of Andor Season 1. I missed the beat timing. Let's do this. I am Mike. I'm here with Laura, and
Hi.
this is like the sequel to our old podcast, but with on-the-fly editing.
Yes. Yeah. Well, call me a long-time listener, first-time caller.
So, we are on Andor Season 1 today because
Mm-hmm.
Season 2 is coming out in, what are we going to do, 6 days now.
About that.
Um,
Yeah, yeah. Fucking psyched.
and I do think this is like my favorite show of the 20s and the definitive show of the 20s. And so I want to start by I wrote down like basic themes I see
Mm-hmm.
in the show, and I kind of like the idea of starting any discussions we do there.
Sure.
So I'll go
Works for me.
first. I have written down here indoctrination, leadership, love, teaching, working
Yep.
class versus and with the bourgeois. Bougie? I just have
Ooh.
Saw Gerrera written down because
Just
he's
in
important.
with
uh,
exclamation points.
Oppression, yeah, I'll put an exclamation point. Oppression as unnatural, hope versus cynicism, and how they play together and aren't
Mm.
necessarily opposed. Identity, performance, self deception, sacrifice, regret, idleness in the face of terror. That's what I basically see in Andor. It's a lot going on in the show, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really argue with any of that, and it's no different from anything I'd say. I certainly it was certainly my favorite show of the year it aired, and it's one of the most important shows on right now. I don't know if I'm ready to give it the quite all the decade superlatives or whatever, but like
Yeah,
that
I
doesn't
mean, the
really
superlatives
matter.
don't
Yeah,
matter.
yeah.
They're
But
silly stuff.
it is without a doubt one of the most important shows airing right now. Well, when it starts again airing right now, uh, has been pretty much since I would say it's, and this is the thing we're going to talk about, the triplet runs of episodes. Um, I would say since the trio of 4, 5, and 6,
Yeah.
it has basically been since then one of the most important shows airing. And in terms of quality of storytelling, in terms of entertainment, in terms of all of the themes it's touching on, everything you mentioned, and in terms of, I don't, I don't want. This is where you get into weird things where you want to say cultural relevance, but like ultimately, I mean, I don't particularly care about that because I don't know. It is culturally massively relevant, not just because it's a Star Wars property, and that's probably the first time that that's been true of a Star Wars property for many years. And
Yeah,
that's,
at least 20 and
yeah.
like at least. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe 40 depending on your
Mm-hmm.
mileage with Sith. But yeah, it's just it's very good obviously, and there's a lot going on with of the dang Cheeto in the White House and how this show responds to that. But I also think this show was like a response to the Biden presidency too, and like just where America was. So it is
Yeah,
oversimplifying it when people say just that. But that
right.
being said, you can't watch some of the scenes and not draw a pretty strong one-to-one line um, to the current
Right. I
situation.
mean, I brought this up in our in the Discord where we expound and sometimes bloviate and sometimes occasionally say insightful things, and mostly just fuck around. But I mentioned the line from episode 5, which is
Yes,
titled "The
just
Axe
read that line.
Forgets." Yes, I will. It's the pace of oppression outstrips our ability to understand it. Followed very shortly, it is not the exact next line, but followed very shortly by something along the lines of, um, 40 it's like,
It's easier to hide behind
yes,
40
thank you,
atrocities
thank
than a
you,
single atrocity, and that's the trick they're playing.
yes,
And
and
then it goes on kind of talking about how it's unnatural, and that's why they have to be that complicated with what they're
yes,
hiding behind. And
precisely,
it's funny
and
because I also quoted that. I'm looking in my other Discord on January 29th, 2005, when I was watching this show for whatever amount of time it is.
yeah,
Um, yeah. So that is one of the standout scenes. Nemec, great character,
oh
good
God,
character
poor
actor.
Nemec, I
Poor
love him.
Nemec.
He got a raw deal, but
My
he was
okay,
wonderful.
we aren't going to do any recap thing, but minor
No,
point of
no, no, no.
discussion. Was the bear guy always gonna sell them out, or did he take it as an opportunity, in your view? Because
Referring
it's the
to
great unanswered question in season one that they'll never say.
referring to, and we're not trying to recap here, but just to clarify your line, Eben Moss Backrack as the character Skeen uh, attempts to run a burn on the heist that Cassian Andor and his ragtag band have just committed, and obviously before uh, Guy can gets away with it because he needs Andor's help to do it. Andor shoots him in the head. Um,
Dude, Andor loves murdering people.
I, it's so great. it's just so his hair trigger is
There are at
priceless.
least
Anyway,
three clean murders, but yes.
mm-hmm.
Was he always gonna do it?
I I don't know. I think he may have decided to do it right after it happened. And you can argue that that was just general desperation or whether it was caused by seeing everyone in the team die. Well, like, it doesn't really matter, but the the precise specifics. But I am of the opinion that it was spur of the moment thing rather than a long calculated decision because he does not seem like a calculating guy to me, which not because the character seems stupid by any means,
No,
but
and just even the way I've never seen the bear yet. I will do it, but he's so good in those three episodes. The way he reads "I don't have a brother"
he's good in
in that,
everything.
and yeah, he's
He's good
awesome.
in the fucking Punisher, which I just rewatched.
Well, that
And
has Shane from Walking Dead in it, right? John Bernthal.
yes, John Bernthal is
He's good in
wonderful.
everything too.
He really just is. Yeah. Anyway,
So I want to start off. There are a few
yeah,
things I just want to cover
sure.
when we're talking about how good the show is. And one of them is kind of my burnt out theory because I don't ever really have it of storytelling as a kind of form of music with
Yes.
melody and counter melody. And I
Yeah.
wasn't explaining this to you when we were talking about it because I figured I'd just go here. And then, of course, the issue is then we're on a podcast and I can never verbalize it quite right, but we're going to try
Well, it's okay because
a
I
little
have
bit.
some stuff that may be able to help you out that I thought of pretty much about 30 minutes ago, but I think it may aid in your theorizing. So
Yeah, well,
please
my
go ahead.
screenshot website is not working so well, unfortunately. It's down a bit, but the Marva funeral scene is And spoilers abound, even though I'm not going to really spoil stuff, but I am going to talk about
Yeah.
this show's for five listeners is my goal. I usually set a number. This is about what I'm looking for, just like
Yeah. Yeah.
whoever watched it and liked it.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know if it'll be as popular as your NBA shows.
no, it I doesn't matter. But
Nor to
the
me.
Marva funeral march scene is one that hit me like a ton of bricks on the more recent rewatch because not just because the speech where it's going, but actually the setup that Gilroy does is it's he
Yeah.
does a lot of sleight of hand
The
in it.
staging, the
The staging's insanely good. Um, but the kind of sleight of hand is that, and I think my musical theory is, a cast is like an orchestra, and all of the shows I really like are wide ranges of fully realized cast, usually like 10 plus
yeah.
characters. That's kind of a core tenet of a Mike show, is that
Yeah.
big cast, Lost BSG, that sort of thing.
Deadwood.
Deadwood for sure. Deadwood is a Mike show. Um, yeah, and so he brings together pretty much everyone in this scene. Not Clea because she's smart and doesn't go, but pretty
Leia
much
is
Clea is
the
Luthen's assistant,
Luthen's aide at the
who
antique shop, his
I
cover,
I
right?
love. Yeah.
She's
Um,
hilarious.
I love both of them, but yeah.
Like
Um,
everyone's fucking so good in this show.
yeah.
It's it's just
Um,
stupid.
and so he brings together everyone, and kind of the sleight of hand is you're on episode 12, and you think this is going to be about Andor rescuing Bix. That plot line is fully realized, or it could be about Luthen, Faye Marcy, Val, and Cinta trying to assassinate Cassian
Yes.
because he's the weak spot for them, or it could be
Yeah.
about Deidre, Mirdro, and Cyril.
Yeah.
For no one really knows why Cyril's there, including
Well,
Cyril, but Deidre,
I mean, I
Mirdro
sort of do,
capturing.
but
Yeah,
we
no, it
don't
makes
have to
sense.
derail ourselves. Um,
Them catching Andor, and
yes.
the whole thing is kind of this cat and mouse game, and what you realize on uh, kind of rewatch with it is that as they're building towards this funeral, this is something that would have never really gone off if they weren't trying to ensnare Cassian. And
That's a very good point. Yeah.
their mistake, they say basically to let the thing play out.
Yeah. No,
And
let
there's
them.
this big loser, I don't know, guy who's just getting mad during the speech.
Oh
Um,
God, yes.
who's
He's
wonderfully
so
performed just
fucking
watching it,
absurd.
just like
He's
getting
so
angrier and
fucking
angrier before
funny.
he kicks the droid. But yeah, and I wish my screenshot website didn't die on me like five
It's
minutes
okay.
before. Um,
I know exactly the moment you're referring to.
but I think the thing with that speech is it's almost a counter melody becoming the main melody in that
Yes.
you have it isn't supposed to be the big deal, and then slowly you see every character reacting to Marva's speech because the whole show. I forgot Marva's actress, who's awesome.
Fiona
Yeah, Fiona
Shaw.
Shaw. Um, Fiona Shaw plays her with like just enough strength to
Mhm.
be convincing that she was like this kind of badass women's rights community
Yeah.
leader, whatever, but
Such a
frail.
versatile
Yeah, but
such a
frail
versatile
enough where
actress.
you kind of are like, all right, she's old and goofy now.
Yeah.
But then she cooks during the speech because all the speeches cook on this show. Um, and each
Yeah.
character kind of has their moment where they're taken from what they are doing, especially Luthen, who's there to kill this kid, and it's just like, oh shit, like this is the actual rebellion that I'm killing myself for,
Hmm.
right here in the streets,
Yeah.
until the greatest moment of the show, Brasso whacking an Imperial with a funerary stone of ashes and letting
It's
out the best scream
beautiful.
ever.
It's fucking beautiful. Like,
But the build up on that scene is it's
yeah.
like a musical style of storytelling, I really think, with every instrument coming together. It's perfect.
No, I think you're exactly right. And especially because that, or to tie it to the literal music of the show briefly, at least for this season, for this first season, uh, Gilroy brought Nicholas Bertel in solely to do that funeral sequence. He had no idea what he was
Really?
going to do for the rest of the show's music. He didn't know whether he wanted to use diegetic music or make up some stuff, or he may have thought that Disney would foist a composer on him, which that probably could have easily happened. But in any case, he got Bertel. He gave him the idea of, in an interview on a podcast on your most hated website, The Ringer.
Yep. Yep.
But he's great whenever he's on the watch. Whenever Tony Gilroy's on the watch. Um,
Tony Gilroy is a great interview.
yes, exactly. He said he told Nick Bertel he wanted something like a folk IRA funeral
Yep.
or something like that. I'm not gonna remember it exactly, but and first off, that's exactly what he gets for that sequence. But then it works so well when he sent Gilroy the rough stuff that he's like, okay, why don't you do the whole show? And they had no problems clearing him, I guess, although he is not composing for the second series due to personal circumstances. That's a bummer. But
Yeah,
going
it is a
back,
bummer. It's the
can,
one weak point in season two's hype train because
yeah,
the Bertel soundtrack is so good. But go on.
yeah, on a much broader level, um, you can think of the 12 episode structure, which is then broken into triplets. Each one is basically is like, you can think of it as either a measure if you want to look at it,
Yep.
like get really deep into theory comparisons, or an easier comparison is probably the four movements of a symphony, uh the allegro, the andante, and con brio, and so on. Because that is traditional symphonic structure. And I think that certainly for the first series, the bits of three, they do all work as movements, even though,
With the exception, I'm just gonna say episode 7 is
yes, I know
it's more
that's the
three
outlier.
three four
Yeah,
two because
yeah,
they
yeah,
weren't as married to the idea back then.
yeah, because that one, it was written by a guy who was originally going to be the showrunner because he was more of a TV veteran. He's the guy who'd worked on a bunch of fairly well received TV shows. I think he worked on Hannibal,
Nice.
couple other things. But that that show's the only episode credited to him. I think it's definitely probably a relic of some more traditional ideas of the show, but it's not enough of an outlier. That's a problem. So, um,
It's also just a
Gilroy,
good episode,
yeah, it's a pretty good
7. It's
episode.
it's needed kind of to transition the story where it
Sure.
goes. I
And
like
that,
them
yeah,
not being as married to the form then because they were still within kind of this one season uh,
yes.
structure.
Oh, that's what's happening. You're having Cloudflare
I
problems.
I have no idea what this is. This website's killing me tonight. I should have done a backup. It's usually quite fast.
Tapthat.com,
Yeah, it's
not on the Dismal Tides friend list.
not anymore.
And I can't, you can imagine what I immediately thought when I first saw Cap that. But anyway,
Yeah, no,
um,
I know. I was gonna let that slide as
I
well.
couldn't.
Um, should we should talk more about the form of it
Yes.
and especially season 2. My second point
Yeah.
was this idea of negative space kind of
Yeah, this is
storytelling.
where I was a little confused.
Yeah, I think it's a simple idea once we clarify it, kind of.
Sure.
Just how many stories there are between the lines and between the time jumps, and
Okay.
not
Gotcha.
necessarily what I'm looking forward to in season two is it not being one to one, where at the end of episode three and the beginning of episode four, there's a smooth jump in character arcs. I'm expecting for season two for it not to be smooth within a year, for it to really feel like some time has passed between these blocks and that some stuff has gone down, because that's how I felt even during season one,
Yeah.
where I think you see the changes in like a Cyril character, who
Yeah.
is highly underrated and a really fun character,
He is
and someone I
an
relate
awful
to.
person played wonderfully
Yeah, I'm
by Kyle.
Solar, I want to say.
Yes, Kyle Soller.
I'm not even sure he's awful yet. I mean, he is,
Well, yeah,
but
he's definitely not he's on the wrong side of history,
yeah,
if
he
nothing
very
else.
much so.
Whether
But
he's
there's
an awful, like a psychopath like Dedra Miro is up for debate.
yeah, Dead Ramiro's an absolute psycho, and I love her
Yeah, she's
so much.
fantastically played, and they again and this has been much talked about, but the show makes all of these characters interesting and compelling, and not quite that you're rooting for them, but you're not really rooting for Dedra to fail per se. You're more just interested to watch her and watch her competence grow, watch her
Uh-huh.
confidence grow. But as this is happening, she's also revealing the monster at the heart of her character. And it's like, oh yeah, this is a person who literally works for the NKVD,
Yeah, the space
Mossad, whatever
Gestapo.
you want to call it. Yeah, space Gestapo of the Empire.
Yeah, and I was also I did put in one of my points just women in the show, just because I do think the
Women,
women I do think the women
we love
characters are
them.
like way better, and I don't know. Star Wars doesn't always
Do
allow,
women
yeah,
well at
correct,
all?
or at all.
Yeah,
Never
it's pretty
mind,
bad.
never
Pretty bad
mind
at them.
complex, kind of like you
Yeah,
can be a monster, but you can also be treated poorly at your workplace on the basis of your sex.
yeah.
Um,
Both things are equally valid and interesting.
and I think that's the thing the show does well, is having
Uh-huh.
these ideas that aren't necessarily at odds. They can both be
Right.
there, um, and just telling full stories with them.
Um, yeah, like or someone like Bix who is not a she's no perfect heroine. She's a person trying to survive in a an occupied world and a male dominated world, and she cannot be some just beautiful shining paragon of decency. She has to survive as a smuggler. She has to be smarter than the men, including her dipshit
I
boyfriend.
was gonna say
God, and
she's also allowed to have like a loser boyfriend who kind of sucks, which
he totally sucks.
a lot of times a character like that wouldn't be able to have that. You wouldn't write that in. You'd be like, well, she wouldn't be with some kind of
Yeah, no,
annoying
that's true. She'd be
loser.
like, she wouldn't have any man, or she'd have whatever. But it's like, no, all these things can exist at once. She can want all these things. Like, she can want a calm home life where she dates a dorky guy,
Yeah.
like, or just a plain ass dude. I mean,
Loser Chris O'Dowd. Sorry to whoever the actor is.
I don't
You
remember
look
his
good,
name,
King. I don't
but
know.
the character's name is Tim with two M's, and that's really all we need to say. Although he does die in her defense, technically. So,
Yeah, I mean, kind of. Yeah, he was fine. I mean,
yeah.
from his perspective, Andor's kind of a shitty ex-boyfriend who did something wrong.
Yeah, and Andor is
So,
a shitty
well,
ex-boyfriend.
that's
Like,
true.
that's literally true.
That's
He's
literally.
he's the he's the quintessential shitty ex-boyfriend. He like so many women have been dicked over by that exact guy because that exact I mean it happens to be because that exact guy never got put in a position to be where he was. We know he's from a world that is basically now lost to time or whatever.
I
Like,
don't think they're ever gonna explain Kanari more
nor
in
should
season
they.
two. I don't
Nor
think they
should they.
should. I don't think they need to.
All we need to know is that it was a remote planet. He lived there as a child. Uh, a ship crash landed there.
His
Somehow that's
sister,
how he got his sister also somehow disappeared from the world. Um, and that's it.
yep,
Like all
picked
we
up
need
by
to know is that
Marva.
it's lost. Yeah. And yes, yeah, obviously he gets rescued by Marva. Um, that's all we need to know is that he's so thoroughly disconnected, and we get that. We don't need to know every single specific of
And
why or how.
I think that is exactly what I mean by the kind of negative space storytelling of you leave that
Mm,
gap in
mm.
there and we can fill
Excuse
it
me.
in and you trust the audience to fill it in. You trust the actors to do the job. And I mean, the end of episode three is another kind of Britell masterpiece, just with the music suite there,
Yeah.
where it's flashing back between the past and the present. Um,
Yes. And also Diego Luna as Andor is just wearing all of this on his face. The He's wearing all the pain, all the scorn, all the cockiness. It's God.
I don't think he gets complimented enough for this.
No, not
I think
at
he,
all.
I
Not
mean,
at
I'm guilty
all.
of it too because I'm a Skarsgård head for sure. And I think
Yeah.
Luthen Rael is like the
Diego
standout
Luna's
probably, but Diego's insane in this. He goes
Diego
crazy.
Luna's been getting underrated since basically being the less famous guy from Itu Mama Tambien
Yeah,
25
because
years ago.
Gale, who's the other guy? Gale,
Gael Garcia Bernal.
yeah.
And yes, Gael got more
He
English
might not
language
even be the
roles
most
more
famous
quickly.
Diego Luna. He just met with the soccer playing Diego Luna the other day.
Oh
I saw.
God. I
But he
know of
plays
no
for
such
Real
person,
Salt
but
Lake.
I'm disconnected from
You
soccer.
you shouldn't. It's MLS nonsense.
Oh, dear. Um,
I had a third point. Do you remember what the third?
I
Oh, we
think
were
I
going to
do.
talk about today's climate,
Contemporary
which we already.
relevance.
Yeah, I mean, we've
We
already
already have
touched on
enough,
that
but
quite a bit.
we've got 9.5 minutes left, so we can just riff or we can talk about things we're excited to see. I'm down for whatever.
Let me go through my notes. I had a few things. Pressure cooker. I like that all the characters go into a pressure cooker with the show, the
Very,
dialogue.
very much so.
I had a few quotes I could do, but I won't. Here's one. Letting people be cool while also letting people be losers. And I was thinking about this in the context of Luthen Rael, who I think does both like kind of marvelously well. Um,
Hmm.
because the easy thing to do is be like, Luthen's a boss. Like he's the
No,
man. And he
he's
is, but he's
well,
also
yeah,
a huge
yeah.
loser.
He's
And like constantly
tormented.
freaking out.
He's panicky. He jumps the gun. He makes mistakes.
Yep.
He admits the mistake, but it doesn't necessarily change the fact that now it has to cover his and many other asses. Like what is it like? I know you didn't want to quote lines, but the
Oh,
speech where
we
it's
can.
like I made my
Oh,
mind into a sunless space or something
yeah.
like that, which is just my God, yeah.
while
All
torturing
of these
poor
writers
Lonnie.
fuck.
Yeah. Bo Willimon,
Yep.
redeemed for whatever season of House of Cards. Bo Willimon's always been a
For
very good
all of,
writer.
well, yeah. I mean, he's responsible for that whole monster, but I mean, I can't blame it on him
No,
entirely.
that's
He was
a
just
lot of
there,
people's
kind
babies.
of. Yeah.
Um,
Um,
hey, I liked season two, so that's two seasons of it I
it
really
was,
liked.
yeah. Had it
Um,
stayed there, it probably would have been better remembered than it is, even
yeah, yeah.
independent of its lead
Of
actor.
that issue.
Yeah,
Um,
that thing.
but I do love that all these characters are allowed both those moments to shine and like have their
Yeah,
individual cool thing while
yeah.
also being incredibly human,
No
and
one,
incredibly
yeah,
broken,
yeah. No one
which I
ever
always
get
love my shows about broken people. Sorry, go ahead.
same. Very much. That's what I'm all about. Like my
Yeah.
favorite show of all time is Twin Peaks, and it doesn't seem like it because no, I'll go, if I start talking about Twin Peaks, I'll never shut up. All of the characters on Andor, aside from some of the like bit players, are and even some of them have pretty great moments. Like I'm thinking of the
I'm pointing
alien
at
that the
this guy.
oh, Sergeant Moss.
Yeah, I love him.
Wonderful accent on him. I'm thinking of the alien that the loan shark brings in the first episode to intimidate Cassian, and
Oh my God, yeah. And
Cassian and
he's
her
just
just like
sort of
stand the
sitting there.
fuck up for yourself.
Yeah.
I'm
That loan
thinking,
shark's a great bit character too, like selling out Andor right at the end.
yes, yes, it
That's
comes
another
back.
piece that is interwoven in this wonderful
Yeah,
Rick's Road final episode.
yeah, it's
Uh,
so good. I don't really know what they're gonna be covering because I haven't like been reading any of the
can I give you like a quick
anticipatory
spoiler-free
pieces.
preview?
Sure.
So
Yeah.
the show was going to be 5 seasons, but for a
Right,
few
that much I
reasons that was
know.
never happening.
Yeah.
One, money in the bubble burst on streaming. Two,
Yes.
they would have run into the Better Call Saul problem of just aging. Now, I think you can always handle that like Better Call Saul did and just not care.
Yes,
Um,
which was the right call.
Correct move. But three with that was it, like the show's torture to make, and I do
Yeah.
sometimes feel like toughen up with this. But the thing is, the Andor is one of the few shows that the production quality actually comes through on screen, so they actually
Yeah.
do the work.
It
So
looks
they were never
beautiful.
getting to 5. So instead, each of the 3 blocks covers a year,
Hmm.
leading up until Rogue One, a movie which I expect to jump even further up my power rankings, despite originally not loving it. But just,
I've always loved Rogue One.
yeah, I mean, it obviously has its flaws, CGI Grand Moff Tarkin.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
but beyond
There
that, the idea
yeah.
is good, and
The
the
hand of the
idea is
mouse is
deeper.
a bit visible, but
Yeah.
not too much so. Um, yeah.
So we're gonna
It's,
see a lot. I think we're gonna obviously,
it's definitely going to be a lot more action, but that's not
yeah,
a
but I
problem. They
think
did
it
the action
all
so well
right. I mean,
when they had it.
Aldani's so insanely well executed as a heist movie.
Yeah, I was just rewatching that last night. It's
I
like it's
believe
just
Andy
click, click,
Serkis will be
boom.
back. We should talk about how they created
I thought he
a.
was fucking dead. How are they doing?
I
Okay.
don't think he's dead. I think he didn't jump.
All right.
And since we have
I'll
Krennic
be
back,
happy to see him because he's great.
well, since we have Krennic back because they cast Ben Mendelsohn for this season, and I have
Yeah,
my theory that we might see Galen Erso and Mads Mikkelsen. I would then
that's
hope we see
fine.
Mr.
Yeah.
Kino. But you don't have to bring him back. I just would like to point out that they created a Kino character and then named him Kino. Will never not
That's
be funny
that's
to me.
that's fair.
Um,
Um, yeah, no, I'm glad. Like Ben Mendelsohn was one of the more entertaining, let's call them fail son villains of in recent like genre entertainment in Rogue One. So I'm glad he's going to. We'll see probably him having more of a swagger in his step
yeah, I think
because
he's just going to be having a lot of fun because this is
yeah,
before his
and
project gets stolen
yeah,
from him.
and I love Ben Mendelsohn. He's fucking great. He's
Um,
like I just love that guy.
Bloodline season one of the all-time best
The
first seasons of a show
outsider,
that shouldn't be.
the
Outsider's good too.
outsider. Yeah,
I don't remember his role in The Outsider. Coming
he's
back
the
to it,
main character aside from Cynthia Erivo. He's the cop.
right? Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking of Bateman within it. I not
Right.
to go
No, that's
through
fair. And
Outsider.
Bateman's great for the time he's
Bateman's
in
good
it.
at everything.
It's a fantastic that's a fantastic miniseries. Anyway, so
We've
psyched for
1 minute
Andor.
40. I
Yeah.
don't know. I got out most of my ideas. It was pretty much spoiler free, so people can
Yeah,
listen to it. Do you have
exactly.
anything you want to close out with?
I guess I hope people watch this like because they can get everything they want from they can get almost everything they want from a Star Wars type story while also getting this high level storytelling, um, politics that are relevant to everything we're going through right now, but aren't presented ham-fistedly. Like it's precise beyond belief without beating you over the head, which is such a hard line to walk.
Yeah, I don't know how
It
they did it other than being predictive. They were basically predictive of a lot of
kind of
things.
the acting is great. Every character is well drawn. Uh, I hope we get more B2 emo. I know
Well, I
we're
think
gonna get
B2 emo should be K2 SO. I do think that would be
oh, we're
a
gonna get
good
K2SO.
thing.
He's in the fucking trailer.
Yeah. I wouldn't
So
mind if they connected those two somehow. I think to leave it out since it'll hard cut us off.
yeah,
Best
yeah.
character of the show is the guy who hits the metal wake up alarm thing
Yeah.
in Ferrex. That is such an unbelievable, like, imaginative piece
It's
of color.
beautiful. Yeah, it's like a company